Hey guys, welcome to the show. Ron the Nation right here. Jeff Waldorf. Got a great show for you guys today. Man, big show. A lot of stuff. First, we'll have a little bit of fun as usual at Donald Trump's expense. That is now a normal thing, apparently. Then we've got citizenship. Oh boy, here we go again. Donald Trump playing Julius Caesar, or attempting to anyway. We also have more stuff on the immigration, the caravan, including Shepard Smith over at Fox News. That's interesting. Fun stuff. We also have a religious leader that was interrupting Jeff Sessions. Who is he and why? And if that will make any, I guess, if it'll actually do anything when it comes to the religious community, if they're going to still be behind Donald Trump. That's an interesting question. We're going to talk about Megyn Kelly and how she might not be back at Fox News after all. Ooh, interesting. And then we have a very bad neighbor. We're going to talk about that. So that's an interesting story. But first, please share and share alike. Helps out. And share and like. That also helps out. Also, super chats, you want to contact the show, that's how you do so, or at least that's one of the better ways. Better because it actually does help the show, but I do read your guys' comments. So, you know, if I see an interesting comment, I'm still going to comment on it. But super chat really just helps the show, as right now, of course, we're being kind of crushed by demonetization as well as algorithm changes. Nonetheless, we are still working slowly our way up to 100,000 subscribers. We're about 91,400 something. I don't have the exact number in front of me, but we're getting closer every day. So thank you guys for being subscribers, for helping us get there. 91,474. So thank you all. We're getting there. We're getting there. So close. Okay, anyway. Not only that, are we streaming on YouTube, we're also streaming on Facebook. So go and check out our Facebook page, facebook.com/TYTNation. Please give us a like. If we get to 10,000, then we can actually use that as a source of revenue as well. That'll help us out greatly. So go like our Facebook page and help that get bigger. So, all right, guys. We're going to dive into the stories here. We'll have some fun, and we'll start out with Donald Trump and his so-called work ethic. That's fun. But before we get into it, Coffee Crow with a super chat. Let me read that real quick. He said, knowing Trump, he's acting like Julius Caesar, but never actually learned about the last part of his life. Correct. Another thing that I want to add to that, he's more Orange Julius than anything else. So, there you go. And one more question here before I know, I told you I read the comments and I have to respond to stuff. Jess asks, what is up with Hillary Clinton poking her nose back and toying with running yet again? So, here's the thing about that, right? The reason that I haven't talked about this is I really don't want to give Hillary Clinton more attention. Because at this point, this is what I think she is doing. She's just poking her nose back in to get attention. Maybe if we don't give her any attention, she'll go away. That's my hope. Probably not, but that's why I don't want to talk about her. Because I'm like, Hillary Clinton is over. Stop making her a thing. I don't want to waste my time doing segments about Hillary fucking Clinton. Like, she's over. She's over. It's over. Stop trying to make 2016 happen. Stop trying to make Hillary a thing. No, it's not going to work. But anyway, so let's get into that. Not that, but let's get into the news, right? All right. So that's what you guys are here for. Okay. So back earlier this year, we talked about how little Donald Trump actually does when he works. So we learned that he gets executive time, right? Axios had actually obtained an inside look into Donald Trump's schedule. So we found out that he's doing far less work than he had promised. That's actually kind of a blessing in disguise in reality, because imagine how much damage he could actually do if he were actually, working. But, look, in that schedule that Axios had taken a look at and published, apparently we found out that Donald Trump gets large blocks of time to which he does whatever the hell he wants. And they called it executive time. That was the euphemism created by Megyn Kelly, so that they actually didn't have to write down that Donald Trump is basically dicking around and being super lazy, eating cheeseburgers on the bed, watching Fox News. Executive time sounds so much better. So, now why do I bring this up? This is an old story, right? Wrong. It's a new story. 9 months later, they decided to follow up. And who's following up this time is Politico. Now, we thought it was bad before. It's actually worse. 9 months later, it turns out Donald Trump is actually doing less work than he was before. Oops. And of course, when he does actually decide that, hey, I'm going to work today, it's usually, according to Vanity Fair, signing ceremonies, yelling at aides, and crafting policy around things that he sees on Fox News. Of course. Writer for Vanity Fair says last Tuesday's schedule, for instance, included 9 hours of executive time. That's triple the time that was allotted for actual work. Trump's first commitment of the day came at about 1 p.m. in the afternoon. And while he had a 30-minute call with CEOs, which is fun for him, I think, as well as dinner with senior military officers, the rest of the day consisted of doing just whatever he wanted. And that's it. Sometimes for stretches as long as 2 hours and 45 minutes. I mean, what did he do in that time, by the way, that he had off? Well, he basically tweeted and trashed Puerto Rico's elected officials and tweeted out videos of himself fear-mongering about immigrants, the immigrant caravan. Well, what about last week? They looked at last week, and apparently a bulk of the president's time was spent going to political rallies and campaigning on behalf of Republicans. Now you say, well, come on, that's work, right? No, Donald Trump loves this. He loves getting in front of a crowd of very enthusiastic, cheering supporters and saying whatever the hell he wants. That's fun for him. Because, again, he's an attention-seeking narcissist. So standing in front of people and saying what's on his mind, well, that's fun for him. It's almost like saying, like, oh, getting in front of a camera and talking about the news, that's work for me. Well, it is work, true. But say I decided not to do any research or take any notes, and I just got in front of the camera and said anything that came to my head. That's what Donald Trump is doing. That is not work. That's not work. He's actually not working. Now, on Wednesday, which began with an 11:30 a.m. meeting with Megyn Kelly, he delivered brief remarks on the opioid crisis, and sat for a media interview before going to a rally in Wisconsin. The rest of his day, according to his schedule, was completely open. I got nothing else to do. Now, what about policy, right? Now, he's the president, he should be able to set policy, right? Well, according to this report, the president spent a little more than 2 hours this week in policy briefings and was scheduled to receive the president's daily brief on just 2 of the 5 days reviewed. Now, the thing is, there are a lot of people in his cabinet saying, well, he works really hard, because sometimes he pulls them into the office to do an impromptu meeting on an idea, right? In fact, a person familiar with the president's scheduling told Politico, quote, he might read something in the paper and immediately you get an impromptu meeting on trade. Does anybody actually believe that he reads? I don't think he does. No, in reality, here's what happens. He was watching Fox and Friends earlier this morning. or earlier in the morning, and it was like, ooh, I got a policy idea. In fact, he has been known to call up Fox and Friends to say, or Fox News in general, to thank them for giving him a policy idea. Oh, that's wonderful. But of course, most of the rest of his time is yelling at CNN, for example, or the New York Times, the failing New York Times, Washington Post, and of course spreading conspiracy theories, like how prominent Democrats have been mailing themselves crude pipe bombs as a distraction from, the midterms. In fact, here's one of his tweets. Republicans are doing so well in early voting and at the polls, and now this bomb stuff, yes, he put it in quotation marks, happens and the momentum greatly slows. News not talking politics. Very unfortunate what is going on. Republicans, go out and vote. And during another block of unstructured time, he complained about a story published in the New York Times revealing that Chinese and Russian intelligence agents basically eavesdropped on his unsecured cell phone calls, arguing that the, quote, long and boring article was so incorrect that he did not have time to correct it. Quote, story is so wrong. Now, what's funny about that particular thing is he not only tweeted out how untrue it was, he tweeted it from his iPhone. Oops. That's what the guy does in his free time. But again, look, as bad as Donald Trump is, and I said this before, could you imagine how bad he could be if he actually did work? If he wasn't so goddamn lazy. So maybe we're all looking at this a little bit wrong. Maybe having a super lazy president is not such a bad thing, because it could be so much worse. But as far as executive time goes, I wish I had executive time. I'm sure a lot of you out there who bust your ass, people working at construction sites or working in, fast food or working in the factories, do you guys get executive time? You don't get executive time, do you? It just shows you how this guy has never had a work ethic. And as far as I'm concerned, shouldn't the people who are supposed to represent us actually work for us? Like, work. Just say it. I know. Crazy, crazy thoughts. Okay. So that's fun. Let's go to serious. All right. And yes, this is it's a terrible story. All right. So President Trump is now planning to use an executive order to try to take away birthright citizenship from people who come in and let me start that again. I don't know why I blanked on that. So President Trump is planning to do an executive order that would end birthright citizenship. Now, a lot of people rightly point out that, hey, it turns out you can't actually do that. Well, during an interview, he claims that he did. Now, this is an interview with Axios for their new HBO show, which a lot of journalists rightly point out, hey, wait a minute, Jonathan Swan, what are you doing? You didn't push back on this. You didn't. All you're doing is saying, oh, I'm excited about my new HBO show. Ooh, not a good look. But anyway, more important stuff here than just the media covering up for what would be a terrible policy. The move, which would likely trigger numerous legal challenges, would seek to end the conferring of citizenship to children of non-citizens who are born in the United States, which is currently guaranteed by the 14th Amendment. Now, in this interview, he said, it was always told to me that you needed a constitutional amendment. Guess what? You don't. Yeah, you do. I mean, this is literally in the Constitution. The Constitution is the law of the land. He can't just make an executive order and nullify the 14th Amendment. Seriously, that's not something that you can actually do. In reality, if you want to actually change the laws, you gotta amend the amendment, or ask the Supreme Court to overturn an earlier interpretation of the law, which would, of course, seek to limit the benefit to people who are in the U.S. But Swan says, but in an interview, he says to Swan, quote, "You can definitely do it with an act of Congress." Not this Congress. But he says, now they're saying I can do it with just an executive order. So who's they? Who's telling you that you can do it with an executive order? You can't. That's ridiculous. He added that we're the only country in the world where a person comes in, has a baby, and the baby is essentially a citizen of the United States for 85 years. With all those benefits, it's ridiculous, and it has to end. So, no, the baby isn't essentially a citizen. They are a citizen. That is just soli. That is right of the soil. You were born on U.S. soil, you're an American citizen. Period. Now, of course, what he says about us being the only country in the world that does it, that's actually incredibly wrong. Now, birthright citizenship is the law in at least 30 other countries. Now, of course, most of that includes the Americas, right? North and South America. For example, Canada has it, Mexico has it, Venezuela has it. Not that you want to go there with their current climate. And of course, sanctions and economic issues, and that's a completely different thing. But there's a lot of different countries that have it here in the Americas. I think Brazil has it. I might be wrong about that. So he's wrong about that. 30 other countries do it. Now, Europe, he actually is right when he says Europe doesn't do it. All the countries in Europe actually grant citizenship by something called jus sanguinis. That is basically roughly translated to right of blood. So that means that you have to have at least one or more parent that is a citizen for you to be, for the child to be granted citizenship. So it does work differently in Europe, and Donald Trump is actually right about that. So, no, we're not the only country in the world that does some sort of birthright citizenship. So then, what's this about? Why is he saying this? Well, basically, it's about stoking fear into people in order to get them to the polls. Now, I'm assuming that Donald Trump knows that he actually can't do this by executive order, and basically is using this as a stunt to excite the base. Or maybe he also thinks, hey man, I got 2 Supreme Court justices now. Yeah, I got Neil Gorsuch and I got Brett Kavanaugh. They owe me. And so I'm going to set up a Supreme Court fight that I could possibly win. Now, that would depend on some of the other conservative justices to also say, we're going to overturn over 200 years of precedent in this interpretation of birthright citizenship so that we could, appease Donald Trump and the rest of the xenophobes. Is it possible? Sure, but not likely, okay? Or maybe this entire thing is a combination. It is a stunt, and maybe he thinks, I might actually be able to win on this one. I don't know. But what I do know is or what I do think anyway, is that I think he thinks that he's Julius Caesar, right? That he can do whatever he wants. He wants to be a king. He wants to be look, he's a fascist. He is a wannabe dictator. And he does not care about any of the precedents. He doesn't care about the Constitution. He doesn't care about any of that, right? And look, he's got to obey the laws of the Constitution. There are ways to change it, but it's very, very difficult in order to do so. And it was made difficult for a reason, so that you can't go and pull things like this. Now, one thing that this, of course, talk does do is that it excites people on the alt-right. It excites the racist, right? It excites people like Ann Coulter, right? Who talk about, the browning of America, right? And actually gets these people more likely out to vote. And so it's no coincidence here And it should be no surprise that about a week out from the midterm elections, here Donald Trump comes with this piece, this news, this executive order to go and bring people out to the polls. It's not a shocker. It's not a surprise. Okay. Moving on. All right. Hold. Had to check something. So President Trump and the Republicans are desperate to kick up some fear less than a week before the midterm elections. Now, it's being reported that the Pentagon is preparing to send about 5,000 additional active duty troops to the border. Now, this is a result of a lot of the fear-mongering about by Fox News about the immigrant caravan that's still a good couple of weeks away from the border. So they're about at least 2 weeks out, according to Fox News. 2 weeks. The midterms are going to be over by then. Nonetheless, oh, here comes the caravan. Here comes the caravan. Oh my God. Be afraid. They got diseases. And they got leprosy. They're lepers. Oh, what did Jesus say about the lepers? I don't think they want the answer to that one. So they're stoking this fear, right? Now, along with Fox News, as I mentioned before, Donald Trump himself has been tweeting and stoking up fear about the dangers of the migrants who are actually just asylum seekers. For example, let me get to a tweet yesterday where he said, many gang members and some very bad people are mixed into the caravan heading to our southern border. Please go back. You will not be admitted into the United States unless you go through the legal process. Now, asylum seeking is legal. And so going to a port of entry to the border and surrendering yourself to Border Patrol and saying, we are here for asylum, that actually is the legal process. So what they're doing right now is legal. But no, he continues. This is the last part of his tweet. Quote, this is an invasion of our country, and our military is waiting for you. Now that is incitement. Our military is waiting for you. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? You shoot him? You going to shoot him? That's basically what he's saying to his face. Right, shoot him. They come. Our military is going to be waiting. Vote for Republicans. We're law and order. We're so law and order that we're going to shoot people seeking asylum who are doing it, by the way, the legal way. Would it help if somebody told all these Trump supporters that, hey, a lot of these migrants, they're Christian. They're Christian refugees. They're being oppressed. Maybe that would help. Or not, because they're brown. But here's the thing. He's calling this an invasion. He's saying they're invading us. And that, of course, matches a lot of the rhetoric that we have heard on Fox News and other right-wing media. So, and the thing about shooting them, by the way, there's a lot of people that would actually agree with shooting them. There was TYT reporter Emma Vigeland. She talked to some Trump supporters at a recent Trump rally. And what did they say about the caravan? Just shoot him. Just shoot him. It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. But again, this entire thing is a stunt for the midterms. They're going to rile up these voters, and that's what they're doing. And by the way, get a load of what they're calling this. This is Operation Faithful Patriot. There ain't nothing patriotic about turning your back on what actually made America. We are all the sons and daughters of immigrants. Unless, of course, you're a literal Native American. The rest of us are immigrants. Now, an official in the administration says that this operation is expected to start on November 5th, one day before the midterms, and last until December 15th. Asked Monday whether the administration was considering closing the southern border, Sarah Huckabee Sanders had said, quote, "We have a number of options on the table, and we're exploring those. And of course, none of them good." So they're sending troops to the border to stop the asylum seekers. And of course, that's a perfect way to rile up the base and say, look, we're doing something. There's an immigrant invasion coming, and we've put the military in to stop it. Vote for us. Vote Republican. Now, look, this is all part of an orchestrated campaign, right? First, you had Fox News feeding people a steady diet of propaganda, right? Oh, they're gang members. They're intermixed with Middle Easterners, which means terrorists, right? And they're carrying diseases like measles and smallpox. You got to be afraid. Be afraid because they're coming for you. This is their grand strategy. And this is their strategy because they don't have anything else. They can't run on tax cuts for the rich because they're deeply, deeply unpopular. They can't run on any of their policies. So they switch to demagoguery and dog whistling. That's what they're doing. Okay. They're saying, no, again, Middle East, you got terrorists, you got disease, and we're actually doing something about it. Now, of course, none of that stuff's been proven. That's all literal fake news. It's false, right? But do you think they care? No. And here's the thing, right? I like to think people in America are generally good people, right? I know that kind of contrasts with my more cynical point of view. But I think most people are actually good people, right? And so you hear about people that are fleeing from violence and death, you think, well, yeah, of course we should give them a shot, right? Yeah, we should help them out so they can go back to their own country, right? Now, here's the thing, right? And this is something that I think helps people understand. Imagine you had to flee your home, right? Imagine that there was so much violence around you and that you were worried of, for example, like we've got school shootings all the time, right? So we got shootings all the time in America, one probably every day. So imagine you're in that area and you want to get out. How hard is it, do you think, to leave your home? Where you have family, where you have all your stuff, right? You only take some, a few things with you. How hard is that? And think about that for a minute, right? That's what these people from Honduras, El Salvador, and other countries in that area are doing. They're leaving everything they knew behind because literally they're afraid for their lives. They're afraid. So like, I gotta get out of here in order to save my life and to save the lives of my family members. I don't want to go, but I have to. And the only place that we can go where we think we're actually going to be safe is America or Mexico. And because there's a good chance that a lot of people in this so-called caravan are actually going to stay in Mexico, or if they go through America, maybe they'll go and try to get Canadian citizenship or at least try to, get asylum in Canada, right? So I think that argument, I think it resonates with a lot of people. So now here comes the fear-mongering, right? In order to make you not be receptive to that, they've got to put in propaganda. Oh, they're terrorists, right? They're criminals. They're diseased. They're here to replace you, right? In fact, George Soros is funding the caravan to come and replace Americans. It's effective. It's effective. So right now, because of that propaganda, you get a lot of people riled up. And some of them will do violent things. Cesar Sayak, for example. He is the alleged pipe bomber. He sent bombs to George Soros. And partly it's because he bought into the conspiracy of George Soros funding the caravan. And not only that, but funding a lot of other things, right? So does George Soros give money to the Democratic Party, to Democratic politicians? Yeah, of course. If you want to end that, get money out of politics. But is he funding the caravan to personally have Hondurans and El Salvadorans come and replace you? No, that's ridiculous. Again, fear-mongering, right? Not only that, you have Robert Bowers. Now, Robert Bowers was charged with killing 11 people on Saturday in Pittsburgh at a synagogue, right? Now, he had reposted several viral comments on a since deactivated social media account about the migrant caravan. One post described the, quote, third world caravan as a group of approaching invaders. And then again, there's also mentions of George Soros. George Soros is Jewish, of course, that Jewish conspiracy that, oh, the Jews want to take over the world, or they actually have taken over the world because they run everything. I'm not sure which, right? There's all sorts of crazy conspiracies out there about Soros. And one of them is he's funding the caravan to come and replace Americans. Both of these people spurred to violence were done so because of this propaganda. This is not an accident. This is what happens when you rile people up. Some will inevitably do violence. And the sickest part of that is that they know this. Republicans know this. And they're like, hey, man, I want to win. I want to win a majority so that we can keep giving what? Tax cuts to the rich? Basically. So they ignore this and they continue to do this hateful, disgusting rhetoric. Fox News and the far right are literally putting people in danger with their bullshit. Donald Trump included. Not just the migrants, by the way. Not just immigrants, but American citizens are also in danger, thanks to the fear-mongering and the conspiracies from the far right. It's disgusting and incredibly sad. Okay. One more here, and we'll go to a break. All right. Fox News' Shepard Smith is now calling out Donald Trump over his fear-mongering on the immigrant caravan. Watch.
The migrants, according to Fox News reporting, are more than 2 months away, if any of them actually come here. But tomorrow is 1 week before the midterm election, which is what all of this is about. There is no invasion. No one's coming to get you. There's nothing at all to worry about. When they did this to us, got us all riled up in April, remember? The result was 14 arrests. We're America, we can handle it. But, like I said, a week to the election, and Jennifer Griffin's on it from the Pentagon.
There's a couple of reasons that I love this, right? For one, Shep Smith is basically talking as if, you know, somebody that he's talking to is a child, which kind of fits, right? I mean, oh, no. Nobody's coming to get you. Everything's going to be all right. There's no monster under your bed. There's no monster in the closet. It's okay. Nothing's going to get you. They're not going to get you. The reason that I love that, and the reason that he does that, I think, is because he knows Republicans, a lot of conservatives are some of the most fearful people on earth. I mean, oh my God, the immigrants are coming. They're taking over. Brian Kilmeade, and I covered that segment yesterday, said that with no evidence to back this up, because when do they need evidence, right? Said these immigrants are carrying diseases. They're going to carry disease into the United States. They've got leprosy, and they have all sorts of, measles and all this stuff. Be afraid. Don't let them in. Be afraid. Be afraid. Right? Donald Trump himself said they're bringing drugs and crime. Tucker Carlson talks about white genocide. Oh my God. Be afraid. Be afraid. Don't look at the facts. Don't you dare look at the facts. Be afraid. White genocide. That is literal white supremacist talking points. So this is what they're doing, right? Now, and look, there are people out there who honestly believe, thanks to, again, the fear-mongering from Fox News, with the exception of Tucker Carlson, I'm sorry, not Tucker Carlson, Shepard Smith, not to get those two confused. I apologize, Shep. You have Fox News and the right believing that George Soros is funding the caravan to replace American citizens with quote-unquote illegals. That's what they think is happening. It's ridiculous. It is a half-baked conspiracy, but again, it's pretty much all they have. And Shepard Smith, he knows it. He's the one guy at Fox News that apparently is allowed to tell the truth. I don't know why they keep him around. I don't know why he stays around. But look, maybe it's because they can point to him and say, what are you talking about? We do straight reporting. Look at Shep Smith. He's so professional. He does straight news. All our other stuff is opinion. Okay. And again, maybe that's my second point. That he's out there and is basically the only host on Fox News that tries to report on reality. And so maybe that's why it's such a shock to a lot of people to see that somebody at Fox News is actually reporting on reality. Okay. I'm going to take a break here. We'll come back. We got plenty more stories. So stay with me. And if you have any super chats, please send those. I'll read those when we come back after the break. Till then, be a few minutes. We'll be right back. Around the Nation. All right, welcome back to the show. Around the Nation, right here, Jeff Waldorf with you. Got a super chat here from Romantic Warrior 1 who says, excellent job. Well, thank you, Romantic Warrior. I appreciate that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That goes to help the show. Okay. There was a comment before I went off the air, by the way, that I do want to respond to. Dog Meat Jesus says, cover the story on TYT saying that there are no blacks on Red Dead Redemption 2. So yeah, okay. I'm gonna have to talk about that just for a second here. So I've been playing the crap out of that game lately, and first of all, it's really good. I'm enjoying it, and second of all, there are blacks on Red Dead Redemption 2. There's fucking Lenny, and he's part of your group. So he's part of your like core group of other outlaws. So that's ridiculous. And yes, there are other black people there. And so apparently a contributor had said that. I don't know. I didn't watch TYT yesterday, so I don't know the contributor's name. But apparently John was on the panel, John Idarola, and he's like, no, you're wrong. That's ridiculous. So thank goodness for John. Look, man, that's why they should not have gotten rid of Kim Horcher. Nerd alert, man. Nerd alert forever. Nerd alert forever. Sometimes they need, and John ain't always going to be there. That's why they need more dorks on TYT. More nerds. We need more nerds. All right. Anyway, I just had to put that out there. All right. So let's go into more news. What about that gaming stream? I have not gotten that yet. I'm still trying to figure out how to use it, like how to work it, because I've got a gaming computer that is not hooked up to any cameras, etc. And my stream computer is not, well, man, the stream computer cannot game worth a crap. So it's got an old video card in it that's not going to run anything. It's got an old, well, the processor's okay, but the board is terrible. And so I can't really stream from this computer. And if I want to stream from my PlayStation to my computer, I need a capture card, which is like 200 fucking bucks. So I really cannot afford to do that at this point. But I will look into it in the future. All right. Anyway. So now, let's get into more stories, guys. Okay. See. All right. Religious leaders are starting to speak out against members of the Trump cabinet. Now, recently, Attorney General Jeff Sessions was interrupted during a speech at the chapter of the Federalist Society. Let's take a look at that video.
Why I
was hungry, and you did not feed me. I was a stranger, and you did not welcome me. I was naked, and you did not clothe me. I was a stranger, and you did not welcome me.
I thank you for your comments, and
and you did not visit me. Brother Jeff, as a fellow United Methodist, I call upon you to repent, to care for those in need, to remember that when you do not care for others, you are wounding the body of Christ.
well, thank you for those remarks and attack, but I would just tell you we do our best every day to fulfill my responsibility to enforce the laws of the United States.
Exercising his free exercise of religion. That is the person who represents the Christian tradition, the faith that everyone here professes to believe in, who is actually sharing with you the words of Jesus himself. The words of Jesus are actually represented in the book of Isaiah, chapter 10, verse 11.
Well, there it is. They're literally booing the Bible. Wow. But this guy, now I love this guy. Later on, he's been identified as Reverend Will Green. Now, there's another guy who was also there. He was the one that got booed. He's a black reverend. So I wonder if that made the difference. So now, later on, Green goes on CNN. He's going to explain why he brought up this particular passage in the Bible to basically tell the Jeff Sessions. Let's take a look at that.
Matthew, I chose it. I'm a United Methodist pastor. I'm a Christian. I'm a Bible reader. I am rooted in Scripture. The 25th chapter of Matthew, this story, is a wonderful tool for us to use to examine our lives. It's a wonderful way for us to hold our lives up against the teachings of Christ, up to the witness of Jesus, and to really look within, to get honest, and to say, how are we doing? How are we treating others? How are we living out our values in the world? I would really, anyone who feels so called to return to those words, literally, to read the Bible, the 25th chapter of Matthew, to talk about it with their friends, with their pastors, with their parents, with their children, with their neighbors, and say, well, where do I stand? Which side am I on? How are my values lived out in the world? And the criterion that we should be judging ourselves by, the criterion by which Jesus judged us, is, are we helping others? Are we literally feeding people who are hungry? Literally visiting people who are in jail? Literally welcoming people who are strangers, which is that interesting word used in translation, strangers. What does stranger means? It means asylum seeker. It means person who is crossing boundaries, people who are crossing borders, and who are seeking community, protection, well-being, which is what we're all seeking. I call these people my friends. I call them my neighbors. I call them my family. God calls them my people. Jesus calls them beloved. And that's who I listen to for my messaging, and that's how I try to see the world through the eyes of Christ. I see friends, I see neighbors, I see people I love, people I am called.
Okay, so I love this guy, right? So here he is. He's actually. I'm not a Christian. I'm not a religious person, right? I'm secular. I'm an atheist, so I don't believe in any of that stuff. That's fantastical, right? The mystical. But what I do believe is actually the message of love. And that guy, that's what he's preaching. The message of love. These are my friends, these are my neighbors. This is my family. These are other human beings, and I actually care about them. I care about what happens. And of course, what happened when he preached that message? Well, you saw the video. They had the cops remove him. Police literally removing a reverend. A religious figure. Just for saying literally what's in the Bible to Jeff Sessions. And of course, they also had the police officer remove that other person that was there as well that was getting booed. Again, they were literally booing the Bible. They were booing the Bible when it actually called for compassion for immigrants. Look, here's the thing. This is what we've been saying all along. Okay, those on the right who profess to be Christians, many of them, look, really only like Christianity for the hateful stuff or the authoritarian stuff. Okay, that explains why 81% of evangelical voters went for Donald Trump. He was preaching the hateful stuff. That is a staggering number. And as of March, they followed up on this. That was a poll from 2016, an exit poll. 75% of them, according to a new poll by the Public Religion Research Institute back in March, found that 75% of white evangelicals still have a positive view of Donald Trump and of the administration as a whole. Because, again, right now, Trump represents this administration. Now, that's with everything that we've learned in the past 2 years. Stormy Daniels, doesn't matter. Grabbing women by the genitals, Doesn't matter. They don't care. All the different scandals, they don't care. All the terrible policies put into place, they don't care. They love it. And it's because some of them literally believe that Donald Trump was put in the presidency by God himself. Not because of the Electoral College. Not because Hillary was a terrible candidate. No, it's because God put him there. God put him there. Those are the people you can't dissuade. Those are the people you lose. Even when you show them the Bible itself, and you say, look, this is where it says you need to treat immigrants as if they're their family. They're your family, right? You need to treat immigrants. You can talk about the story of Lot. And be like, no, it's against homosexuality. No, Lot's crime, or I should say not Lot's crime, but the crime of Sodom and Gomorrah is actually mistreating people who are coming in looking for shelter. The whole town's like, oh, you got strangers coming in for shelter? Lot, send them out so we can rape them. Well, no, have my daughter instead. Go ahead and rape my daughter instead. Terrible story. What are we supposed to learn from that? In reality, of course, the big crime of Sodom and Gomorrah, as I said before, is inhospitability, right? And of course, what are we doing here in America? We are inhospitable to immigrants. We don't want them in here. There's a lot of people in this country, unfortunately, who profess to be Christian, who do not actually follow Christian values. And so, look, at least we do have some religious leaders like this guy who do actually read the Bible and who at least are able to see through this bullshit and are now willing to challenge this administration on their terrible policy. Okay. Let's go to Megyn Kelly. Real quicker. Now, following Megyn Kelly's unceremonious departure from the Today Show and NBC itself, interestingly being replaced by Al Roker, which is ironic because when she went to NBC, the Today Show, she actually replaced Al Roker. A little bit of karmic vengeance there. But now, following that exit, a lot of people, myself included, speculated that, hey man, look, at least there's a nice home waiting for her at Fox News. Well, it turns out, probably not. Now, this is according to a new report in the Daily Beast that reveals that the Fox News PR team, led by a woman named Irina Briganti, has actually shivved, not literally, of course, but career-wise, had been shivving Megyn Kelly in the back ever since she left Fox News. Apparently, she has pushed reporters at Fox to write negative stories about Kelly ever since she left the network. According to the report, Fox News' PR team missed zero opportunities to knife Kelly in the back during her stint at NBC by feeding reporters stories about her bad ratings and her assorted gaffes, including, of course, the infamous defense of wearing blackface on Halloween. Oh, see. So she leaves Fox, and this PR team decides to throw her a red wedding. Briganti is basically playing the part of Waldorf. Now, of course, the analogy starts to break down when you realize that, oh, wait, if Briganti is Frey, and this is a red wedding, well, then that would have to mean Megyn Kelly is like Rob Stark. Then, yeah, that kind of breaks down, and I kind of hate that. Because, after all, Megyn Kelly is not a good person. She is no Rob Stark. So, but anyway, Game of Thrones aside, why would Briganti do this? I mean, why would she continuously shiv Megyn Kelly in the back? Well, it turns out Briganti was kind of pissed about Kelly's role in bringing down Roger Ailes. The late Roger Ailes, I should say. According to 3 people with direct knowledge, Briganti deeply resented Kelly, in large part because she privately blamed Kelly for leaks that painted the top Fox flag as an enabler for former Fox News CEO Roger Ailes amid the sexual harassment scandal that ended his career. So part of that is Megyn Kelly's like, oh no, it was the PR people at Fox that were helping out Roger Ailes. Well, she's the top PR person at Fox, and she's like, oh no, you didn't. Oh no, you didn't. That's it. I'm gonna come after you. I'm gonna follow you to your new job and tell NBC how much you suck. Oh, that's funny. Now, if this is true, it does give you a glimpse of how dirty cable television is, right? So these are 2 people, and look, everybody in this story is horrible, with the exception of Al Roker, which really isn't even in this story. He's just like, hey, I get my job back at Today Show. Great. Worked out pretty well for me, but not for Megyn Kelly. So, now here's the thing. I'm actually not going to defend Megyn Kelly, right? But, look, I'm just pointing out, she got done dirty by Fox. When in reality, like I said, Ailes was a horrible human being who did all sorts of terrible things to the women who worked for him, including, and this is ironic, trashing them to make sure that they never get a job in television news again. That is, of course, if they turn down his advances. Hey, I can make sure that you never work in this town again if you don't have sex with me. That was one of the allegations against Roger Ailes. Now, it appears Briganti is kind of doing something similar, right? Doing the same tradition of, like, basically trash-talking Megyn Kelly to the other networks that she happens to try to get a job at. Which, again, Megyn Kelly is bad enough on her own. Who wants her? Like, again, my take on this is who would want her in the first place? But again, today, I was like, ooh, right-winger, so that we can avoid being called liberal. But anyway, throughout all this, I really don't want you to feel bad for Megyn Kelly, since it has been reported that she'll be receiving her entire $69 million contract from NBC. So believe me, she's going to be fine, right? Just don't expect her to pop up on your TV anytime soon. And I guess for that, well, good riddance. All right. One more story here. Going a little late. A 63-year-old Indiana woman is having no regrets for being arrested for leaving a racist letter aimed at a black child. Oh, here we go again. Deborah Cantwell, who is in this picture, was recently charged with a misdemeanor. Now, these misdemeanor counts of intimidation and criminal mischief for leaving a letter on the door of her new neighbor's home. So that's what she was charged with. Now, the husband and father of the family had told police that just after 1 a.m. on October 13th, that his family's newly purchased Greentown home had been toilet papered, and he had found a racist letter on the door aimed at his son. So I'm assuming, without knowing necessarily, that the rest of the family is white, but they have an adopted black son, or maybe not adopted black son. Not exactly sure of the makeup of this family. Nonetheless, they're going after specifically the child. So now I want to read the letter to you to show you how disgusting this is. Quote, "No N-words wanted in this neighborhood. This is a white neighborhood. Some people find N-words stressful." Stressful. Now, in case she wasn't clear enough, she said, "Your N-word kid is not welcome." And then she ended the letter by having some, putting some a little bit of advice for the new neighbors. "You can sell your house and make money on it right now. By the way, hope you have deep pockets." Now the father told police 2 days later that he suspected that this woman, Deborah Cantwell, had wrote the letter saying that the home seller told him that the neighbor was concerned about the family because of their black son. Well, that's pretty bad, but there's more. Text messages sent by Cantwell were obtained by investigators that cited health-related concerns that also matched claims in the letter. Quote, I am stressing now that we are going to get black neighbors. I am hoping that more people look at the house and an all-white family are the ultimate buyers. I am afraid the stress of black neighbors could put me in the hospital. My blood pressure is elevated just thinking about the possibility. Wait. So that kind of makes you wonder, what is it about living next to black people that stresses you out so much? I don't quite understand, right? Why is that? Why would that be a stressful event? I've had black neighbors before. They don't stress me out. They're some of the nicest people I've ever lived next to. So why would that stress you out? Oh, that is unless you're afraid of them. And see, that's the thing. This is all based on fear-mongering about black people. Stereotypes of crime, right? So, again, you buy into those racist stereotypes and those tropes, right? That, oh, black people, they must be criminals. They must be criminals, and they're going to, black people move in next door, they're going to do crime. Oh, well, that makes my blood pressure rise. I'm scared. I'm scared. In fact, here's what she told police. I mean, the blacks get away with it every time. And her excuse is, just rage. I was just trying to vent. That's it. I was just trying to vent. Because the blacks get away with it. They get away with what? What are you talking about? What do they get away with? Black people are disproportionately incarcerated. A lot of it for nonviolent drug offenses thanks to the war on drugs, right? Even though they do drugs at the same, trying to think of that word. They do drugs at about the same rate as white people. So, but this last admission kind of shows her privilege, right? She admitted that she was trying to make the new family feel unwelcome by sending this letter. Well, no kidding. Nothing makes you feel unwelcome from somebody targeting your son because of the color of their skin. She also said, part of her excuse, I just needed to let out some steam. And it was I'm not a violent person, so I don't think it was any big deal. Hey, at least she didn't say, oh, I'm not a racist. She didn't say that at least, but, oh, I'm not a violent person. Well, then who toilet papered the house? I know that's not violence, but still, nonetheless. But here's the thing. This is flagrant racism, right? But she thinks, oh, no. Telling people that they're not welcome because of their skin color, well, that's not a big deal. I just needed to vent. I just needed to blow off some steam. If that's your way of blowing off steam, basically, writing a nasty letter with racial epithets on them, you got some problems. Big problems. More than just health, right? Look, and they say, of course, racism, oh, it doesn't exist in this country. You know, we have video of white people almost every day calling the cops on black people for doing normal things. Barbecuing in a park. Holding a peaceful anti-violence rally. Hanging out at the pool. Trying to get into their own house. And look, people get killed for that. Unarmed African Americans are getting killed. That's racism. Now, finally, one of the most frustrating things is her apology. She said, quote, I am sorry that it caused so much ruckus, the letter. But I feel like I released some anger writing that letter. Let me translate that, right? I'm sorry that my open racism got so much attention. I'm not sorry because I feel better. And hey, at least I got to call my neighbor's kid the N-word. That's what that translates into. This is the effect. This is the impact of allowing racism to become mainstream. You're not even hiding it anymore. And I guess in this case, they're actually kind of proud of it. Sad. Okay. That's it for that. Full day today of stories. I got some super chats that I want to read before I go off the air. Let me go here and open that up. Let's see. Platypi says, much love, guys. Thank you. What do you mean? Says, just wanted to say the YouTube thing is going well. I've received some feedback on my videos. That is great. Awesome. Wonderful. Mark Ortiz asks a question. Do I watch Daredevil? Yes. Yes, I do. I binged the goddamn thing, I think, over the weekend. So good. It was so good, season 3. So watch it. And I'm currently making my wife watch The Punisher, which she enjoys. So great. Thank you guys for the super chats. Appreciate it. Also, I fart magic. That's fun. Just basically is laughing at Michael Moore. I don't know why. I'm not sure what Michael Moore did. But okay. Fair enough. Okay, guys. That's it. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Check out our videos. Helps out when you like and share those clips. Helps us get into the suggested feed, which is good for everybody. If you want to help out the channel, sign up, patreon.com/tytnation. $2, whatever, $3, whatever you can spare, really. It all goes to help us out and to keep the lights on. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Make sure to like the stream, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.